In a world that's always racing forward, sometimes we need to slow down and reconnect.
Connect genuinely, broaden your perspective, and share your passion.
Bona fide dialogues, where authenticity, creativity, and passion merge.
Okay, welcome to Bona Fide Dialogues.
David Farrow is a CEO of Farrow Communications, Brain Hackers, and Farrow Memory, and he is best known for his brain power. He is a two-time Guinness World Record holder for most decks of playing cards memorized in a single sitting, as well as an entrepreneur, memory coach, speed reader, author, and keynote speaker.
It's very nice to have you, Dave.
Oh, it's wonderful to be here. Yeah.
Wonderful. I wanted to start this dialogue by asking you about your journey of becoming a world record holder, Guinness record holder. You know, it's probably a long story, but what motivated you? Sometimes we're as humans, we think we want to be remembered, right? And unfortunately, like 3-4 generations later, we're all forgotten. So, you know, it's a sad truth, right? Sad truth, but it is what it is. But some people are being remembered for centuries. I don't know if that's something that motivated you to do something so extraordinary, or is there something else?
I was motivated by very negative things. I love how positive you are, but I was motivated by, I think a lot of people can relate to this. I wanted to prove a bastard wrong. Can I use that word? I just did.
Absolutely.
All right. Yeah, I wanted to prove this guy wrong because I was diagnosed with ADHD and dyslexia when I was a kid. Very real things. I know everybody has ADD nowadays, but before it used to be pretty rare. And executive function, staying focused was a real challenge. But it was a challenge that I was trying to face head on. I was trying to do the best I could with it, and I had some pretty ambitious goals. And I had a teacher tell me, in no uncertain terms, that I'm not gonna graduate. I'm not gonna have secondary education. I won't be able to run a business. I have to make realistic goals and learn how to work with my hands and work in a factory or something. And I may already know this about me. I'm very intellectual. I love reading. I love learning. I love all these things, but I had focused issues. So it was a situation where, of course, I was very motivated to prove them wrong. But in order to do that, I had to get good at what I was doing, and I was terrible. I was at the bottom of all my classes when I was a kid, and I was really struggling. And they didn't really have any solutions, nothing like there is today even. So I decided to just become obsessed with how the brain works, and I was using it to try to overcome my own challenges. And when I was able to do that, then I thought, well, how far can I push this? And I wanted to help other people. And there's nothing like a big, powerful goal to get you motivated to do something. When you aim for something that's just well beyond you, it changes who you are, and it changes what you're capable of. And forever afterwards, you know that you're capable of more. Whether or not you achieve the goal, even just going for it, you see the power. I find that in a way it's easier to achieve with impossible goals than it is with regular.
Interesting. Yeah.
And that's because goals are all about motivation. Now success is all about systems, don't get me wrong, and there's a whole bunch around actually achieving things, but you got to start with motivation. Like Nietzsche said, you can accomplish any how could be accomplished with a big enough why.
So you were very young, then you got this idea that you want to do something, push yourself a little bit, right? A little bit every day.
Yeah, I was 14 years old when I was diagnosed, and I was 16 when I really decided to do something about this because I was failing, and it took me till I was 18, 19 to do it. And then I did kind of a memory demonstration for a local charity, and I got a lot of publicity for that, and I had my ego stroke, so I was like, oh, this is pretty good.
Maybe let's tell everybody what you did.
Yeah. So I memorized the exact order of 59 decks of playing cards all shuffled together. That's my most recent record. The first record was 40 decks with it was I was trying to kind of I was trying to really prove something, and this is my records right here,
Yeah.
right? So the first record I should say was 40 was the record I was trying to beat, and I beat it with 52, and it was very powerful. It just changed my life completely. And then he broke it back, and I decided to go after it with 59. Now I was originally going to do 62. I was going to do 10 more, but there was typos on the back of some of the decks of cards that we got that actually they were red instead of blue. So it would have been scattered all throughout, and it would have looked like there was like something going on, right? So I had to. I was left with 60 decks of cards, and I knew after doing a bunch of interviews, if I did 60 deck of cards, I'd be basically correcting people forever because they would think it's 16, and I was like, no, 60, 60,
Okay,
and
so it's a good number.
I said 59. It was easier to hear, it was easier to remember and listen to, and everything. So, so what I did was had to they had to all get shuffled in random order, and then I had to go from the beginning to the end and memorize them in a single sighting, and then recall them from memory verbally, which was really my good side, right? I was more focused on what I could speak, and you have a second to correct yourself if you make a mistake. Thankfully, I didn't make any mistakes, or I made one mistake in the second record, so it was very proud of that. And the last part of the record I did on the Discovery Channel, because getting it done on publicity, I learned was like the name of the game. That was what solidified that success. So after I broke my records, I had some courses, and I started selling them. I sold over 100,000 copies of my books and courses, and about $8 million in sales worldwide, we estimate, and had an infomercial, and was even on QVC, and it was great. And then it led to a speaking career in memory and all that stuff. And now I'm doing a bit of a reboot. I have a new book out called Brain Hackers, and we have a website called brainhackers.com where people can go to do what it sounds like. You're going to learn brain hacks, simple things that can improve your life every day, just by changing how you think. And it all starts with your mindset. And I can tell you from deep experience that not every day in my life has been a picnic. It has been very difficult and very stressful. But I got to say, having a strategy to get control of your brain rather than just have it control you changes everything. It's pulled me out of the abyss so many times, and it's helped me get to places I would never be. So that's just really where my desire comes from, is to help others with that, to have others feel that as well.
I feel it's very encouraging. It's not like you're saying, oh, anyone can do it, but you also had some learning difficulties, right? And you achieved such an amazing result. So I think it's very, very good to hear for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
That anyone can do something that you put your mind to, right?
Well, you should do something that scares you, especially if you're young. As you get older, maybe do things that scare you less. Be a little more conservative, and that's why older people tend to be more conservative, because they have more to lose. But you should do something that scares you. The amount of people I've met that are pacing in their living room wanting to quit their job and start a business, and then the following year they're still pacing wanting to quit their job and start a business. And I get it. I've had projects that have lasted for 5, 6, 7 years and haven't finished, and I've had to reevaluate and relaunch and all that, and life does happen. I get that, but there you have to separate: is this fear from, is this really my instincts trying to protect me? And those two things feel so similar, so just recently, actually, in my PR firm, we have a dip in sales, and I'm wondering, if there's something in the business model, if we can change some of our services or anything. I started really, doubting some of these things, and then I sat down and I meditated, and I was like, is this a problem from me? Am I overreacting, or is this an actual problem from the outside? And the answer came clearly that it was me overreacting to things that are going on.
Mm.
That there are going to be, that there was some dips. Then looks like we can get out of those dips and everything, and all that. But it was really important because so many people act so rashly because they're feeling it, and you don't know, like, emotions are part of the brain, right?
Mhm.
And so a big part of my book, Brain Hacker, talks about emotions and how essentially the best way you can think of emotions as is a shortcut. So you feel something, and that is your brain's way of making a decision or trying to do something, trying to get motivated to do something, without having to do all the math, without having to figure everything out, right? Somebody says something
Kind
to
of.
you, or they insult you or something, and you get angry. Well, that's your brain, not processing every possible reason why they could have said it, and just jumping to, oh, they said it because they're my enemy and I want to defeat my enemy, and so
Yeah.
it jumps right to it. So it's a
More
short.
reactive. Yeah.
Yeah. So understanding that it's a shortcut, pulling that back, and asking yourself, is this my instincts, my soul, right? Which is a real thing. Like, and I mean, from a scientific perspective, there is an inner voice, there is an instinct we all have, there is intuition. I'm not saying from a scientific perspective it's all psychic or anything, but there is a level of wisdom in the brain that if we calm ourselves down and actually get in touch with that, there's a smarter person inside you that's been doing a lot of thinking lately, and you need to talk to them. you
So
know
I hear what you're saying, that a lot of it, a lot of your success is motivation, right? There's definitely listening to your inner voice and plus some system, right? Because you had to come up with the system of how to approach this
yeah,
goal, right?
yeah. Motivation and systems, and just sticking through the middle part where you're building those systems is
Yeah,
real.
so hard work, don't give up, just
Yeah, well,
come up with the plan, right?
well,
Because I can imagine how many times you could think like, you wanted to give up because
yeah,
something you decided to do is like nobody else done in the past. Like, can I even do it? Did you have
right.
any doubts?
Well, the main reason why people give up and why they have projects that just fall apart, it's because they don't get feedback. They don't get positive feedback during the toughest part. So if I'm gonna tell my friends I'm gonna launch my own business, in the very beginning they're all like, "Yeah, good job, good, go for it," and everything. Maybe I try to get financing and talking to the bank and all that. Then there's this grind period. There's this period where you got to do a bunch of work, and you have to get systems in place. So you've got to figure out what works, then you have to build a system to make what works happen, and then you've got to finalize that and finish that project. Then when you finish the project and you're successful, then you get accolades from people, right? So generally in life, even in my life, i'm getting um, I'm getting things that boost my ego and pride about things that I'm not doing right now. Right, I'm working on other projects and everything. And we're talking about something I did, a number of years ago. That's the way it is. Is you have to do the work first, and then you get that motivation from other people. And so many of us are motivated by what other people think, and we're not motivated as much by that.
And sometimes even your closest relatives or people who around you in your everyday life, they wouldn't support you. So
Mm.
it's wonderful that everyone is supportive, right? But it's not always the case.
Oh yeah, no, I had. Well, I told you I started this because there was somebody who was a jerk, but also I had family members that bet money that I would fail at my Guinness record. And the weird thing is, I think if you have the right success mindset, you don't necessarily get insulted by that or react back. The mindset I had was, why are they even thinking about this at all? Like, if I heard a friend of mine was gonna, go for a Guinness record, I'd be like, hey, good job, go for it. If you need any advice, let me know and everything. And that would be the majority of the thoughts I would give
Even
it.
if he fails, right? It's such a wonderful experience
Yeah, give
to
it a try. Yeah,
pursue that, right?
but like, people went out of their way to tell me how I would fail. They push so hard, like calling me out of the blue, sending messages, multiple messages. And I was just like, what's in this for you? Why are I'm doing this anyways, and I'm going to do it very well and everything, but why are you putting out all this effort to
Even
stop?
if you don't succeed, right? You're learning so much throughout the process about yourself, about life.
Well, but the real thing is you learn as you get older. I think that other people have their own agendas. They have their own inner world. So, like for example, that guy who was a teacher who was a jerk. He It was clear that he had bigger goals that he gave up on. So he needed
Mm.
other people to give up on their goals. I didn't quite find out exactly which ones they were, but I did hear from somebody that he went from very, very optimistic to a very pessimistic.
Yeah.
Maybe that's
And
something.
yeah, you trained like thousands of people how to remember things.
Mhm.
What do you think is wrong with our educational system? I
Oh,
remember when I was a kid, and I grew up in Soviet Union, in Russia, and then we moved to Ukraine. We learned a lot of poems. That was a good way for us to train our brains. It was a part of the system, like long poems, 2 3 pages poems we had to memorize, and you have to recite it, like stand in front of the class and somebody start, next person continues. And I don't see it here in the United States. And I have
no.
2 children that were born here in the United States, they're 16 and 21. So I'm familiar with our educational system. But
Yeah,
just
no.
interesting to hear your opinion.
Well, I'll tell you that that was a very conscious change that the American educational system made. And at the time, it seemed to make sense. So, it also like in the UK and other places, memorization was a big part of things. I
So
hear
what
from.
changed? What
Well,
do
there
you
was the belief. There was the belief that these kids are memorizing, but they don't really understand it.
understand? Okay.
They were just going to be robots regurgitating stuff.
So it was
Uh,
the same system sometime in the past. That's what you're saying. And then it was changed some. Okay, I didn't know that.
So the idea was to stop people from being robots. So they thought the problem was the memory work. They were going to stop rote memory and talk about concepts. But I think this also went way too far because without actually learning data, you don't know how to use data. Languages is probably the best example. Language courses were pretty good at one time, even in America, where you're studying Spanish, you'd be able to like order food in Spanish and
Yeah.
things like. Nowadays, there is a running joke where, and I'm not trying to insult anybody, but there are people who are going to college for years for a particular language and they can't speak the language. And I'm not talking Latin here. I'm talking like Spanish or Italian or something like that.
Yeah.
But they learn like the grammar all day and every day. They learn like the usage, they learn the culture, they learn everything but the what I would call the soldiers that are on the ground, right? So, in an attempt to get rid of the robotic nature, we stopped focusing on actually learning things, and we changed to this, idea of understanding.
And that's
Uh,
a good idea, right? But it seems like
it's in the
all
execution.
of these concepts should
Yeah,
have place, in our educational system.
it definitely failed in the execution of the idea. So, so we have this idea to not just be repetitive and repeat things over and over. So, what we should have done is we should have had a certain amount of it's kind of like a business concept of KPIs. This is actually how I'm running my son's education. I'm homeschooling him now. He
Hmm.
has the same ADD issues that I do and everything else, but I think I've learned from the past and we're doing something different. But the main thing that I have, and I've taken him from failed one grade in school, and he was going to fail the next, and I took him from that grade level to above the next grade within 1 year in his thing. The problem is with me and with him is that he goes through material very slowly. It takes him a long time to do
Hmm.
testing. We're working on that a little bit, but my approach with him is what I call KPIs, which is just basically like the importance of business term. It's the important points that we have to follow. So if we break education down to some numbers, we can at least know if we're getting better or getting worse. So, one number is things like IQ, your ability to solve problems. So we do have IQ puzzles. Another number is your ability to read, how fast you read, and at what complexity do you read, and how often. These are all things that we can measure and we can do. So I think the problem is that same with Common Core. There's a new thing in the United States, new that you probably experienced. Same with like most of the ways they try to change the education system is there's a whole group that wants to measure everything, and then there's another whole group that doesn't think that it can be measured. And the problem is that the people who are trying to measure everything are usually measuring the wrong thing, and the people who don't think it can be measured are usually just stumbling blocks and getting in the way. But there are international standards for a lot of things. Reading speed is a really good one. Just time on task. If you have a child that is reading on a regular basis, then their chances of succeeding academically in the future are so much higher. I mean, reading opens up the world of learning. They can learn anything on their own if they're active functional readers as early as possible and as effective as possible. So that's an example. Math and logic, these sorts of things, it's just a matter of time on task. So people get too obsessed with, oh, are you good at algebra, or can you do derivatives, or can you do this or that? And in my experience, it's just you have to apply yourself to mathematical problems a lot. And you'll get better at applying yourself to multiple problems if you're exposed to multiple problems and you have to do it on a regular basis. If you just do that once or twice a week, then you don't get the practice of having that mathematical mind and how to approach the problem. So that's why we have certain daily tasks that we do, and that's been really what's been able to raise my son a lot. And then of course I teach him the memory techniques. These are tools to train your brain. The reading techniques are in my speed reading program too, and it dramatically changes how you see information. So it makes memory work super easy, and it frees your time and energy up to do all the other stuff, the logic and the figuring stuff out, the understanding.
Now it feels like technology is getting better, and we're using our brains. I can't say less, but just differently, right? Do you
Yeah.
think we still need to memorize things? Then now everything is at your fingertips. You can search for something, you can use AI models to look up anything you want. You don't have to remember it, right?
Yeah, well, there's a problem with that, though, is that our brain is not getting the exercises that it needs. So I saw this happen way back in the day. That we actually studied something in the 90s and early 2000s, and I realized that makes me old. So, suck it, everybody. I reached this level. Basically, back then it was called the Google effect, and it was because people could Google things, they weren't thinking anymore, and they weren't memorizing. So, we would have conversations about, who was the actor who starred in this movie, and we'd be talking like three or four people, and like one person would, I think it's this, I think it's that, and the other person would go, no, 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 I remember it because he was in this movie and everything, and we would figure it out instead of just being able to look it up on our phones in seconds. The biggest change that we saw in our memory was when we started having an address book in phones. You can actually see a drop in our memory retention tests in America when smartphones had the ability to hold on to and save numbers. So when we have our whole Rolodex, because it used to be you look at a number and then you type it in, and you have to hold it in your head long enough to type it in.
Yeah.
And that completely went away. And as a result, we lost like 2 points worth of memory. So on an average memory test, we used to be able to remember like 7 to 8 things. That went down to 6 or 7 things during that 90s, 2000s. And now, because of social media, because of AI, we have people whose IQs are going down because AI is thinking for them. And already an effect that we see on the brain. So yeah, so we shouldn't just try to memorize things. What we should do is, like, just for memory's sake, it's that when the whole world is blind, the one person who can see is king, right? So when everybody's brain is just being turned to mush with this online brain rot, when you're the one person who can remember everything and learn skills fast and stay focused and everything, when you have these skills, then you get the job that you want, you get the partner that you want, you get the success that you want. That's the main thing that goes on.
It seems like there are different types of memory. I work in the legal field in e-discovery, so on internal corporate investigations. I spent more than 10 years. So what I had to do is to go through thousands of pages of documents every day, reviewing contracts or emails. If it's internal investigation, for example, of software company, right? I'll have to read their internal emails. And I developed this amazing, almost like photographic memory for emails. For example, I saw this email 2 years ago, but if the partner on the case would ask me, Christian, do you remember that person sent an email and said something like this? I would right away see it in front of me in my mind, and I can go to our database and pull that email. Oh, here it is. So I had this.
Because you were flipping through it in your head so much, and you were flipping through them so often, you had trained your brain to focus on that.
Yeah, so I could remember documents. And this is like interesting way I trained my mind. And later on, I took a year off from my legal career, and I was taking classes in early childhood education and work for Pixar Child Development Center with little children, writing my children's books. And I remember then I was taking a class in just community college class in early childhood education. A professor or lecturer, she did this exercise. She asked 5 people stand in front of the class and just asked everybody, just look at these people. And then these 5 people left the room, and she started asking questions about what these people were wearing, about their clothes. And most people, like 80%, they couldn't even remember what kind of shoes, because you need to know this when you work with kids. If something happened, what did this boy wear today? And people can't even remember. So this is something that depending on your profession, you have to train different types of memory. And the reason I'm thinking about these examples now, depending on what you do in life, you still can use those skills. It doesn't matter what profession you have, those techniques that you're teaching, that you're providing to people, can be useful to anyone, right? And applied in your different fields and different professions.
Yeah, well, it's a great example that you're coming up with. It's essentially brain plasticity, where we understand that our brain is changing all the time. And this might not be news to anyone today, but one of the things I can say that there is a lot of understanding as to how brain plasticity is really triggered. And when you have one exercise like that, like they did in the classroom, that's one time thing. But the people who decide to do daily exercises really are king in this. That's actually why my newest program is a daily audio and exercise. So it's audio so that you can close your eyes and focus on your mind, so it helps you focus. It's actually more effective than video, but it's a daily approach for 30 days, because you have to have a little bit. It's better to have a little bit every day if you get into the habit of it, than to have a whole bunch all at once, and that trains your mind better. So I was doing a seminar. We were planning on this whole thing with a bus route company. And apparently the bus drivers that remember the names of all their students, they have much less behavioral issues, in the bus. So there's like, Billy, lie back down. Like, instead of, hey, you, kiddo, sit down. People listen to their names, right? So that's a good names and faces. So we're doing all this names and faces training. And it was the ones that decided to do the exercise every day for a while and say the names back and everything, and actually, apply it, that really made the difference. So
that's a good point, right? Many of us, then we meet a new person and we introduce ourselves, for some reason we forget the name of the person.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, today's day and age, everyone's so overwhelmed. You have to really slow down and focus. And it's easy to be a monk when you're in a monastery. It's easy to be calm and slow and deliberate when you have no stress. Yeah, no, it's true.
We have so much information coming at us that our brains are not even designed to be able to process all this information.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes the biggest difference ever. So that's why I tried to put that in my course to get people to go beyond this sort of brain rot stuff into something that they can focus and get the amazing results that a trained memory gives you. So I don't have any better memory than anyone else. Naturally, I wasn't born with any greater memory. I was born with worse and focus issues and everything else. But I have skills and strategies. I feel like I'm Liam Neeson. I've acquired a set of skills over many years. Is that an old reference? I don't know if it's an old joke, but so I go into my office and I use my focus burst technique to stay focused. When I'm reading, I use speed reading, and I use other things to stay from stressing out and things like that. So I have a tool to help me in every situation. Doesn't mean life is easy, but life gets a whole lot easier when you're not fighting your own mind. And the I mean, the success kind of comes from that calm.
That's wonderful. And people can go to your website and find some of the trainings.
Yeah, I would like everybody to go to brainhackers.com, and you can actually join the community, and you can share your own brain hacks on there, and you can look at other people's brain hacks. If you are an author, speaker, expert, we didn't get into this, but I run a PR firm now.
Yeah, I was about to get to that point. I would love
I'm
to,
really good at promoting my own memory stuff, so I started a PR firm, and we do this for others. So we're the best for authors, and the best and most affordable. But now with Brain Hackers, we're able to kind of help people in a more of a community setting. So you can create a profile, you can put up your own what makes you great in your profile, and then have links to purchase your books and your courses and things like that. So that's at Brain Hackers.
Let's go back. You became very famous.
Right.
You got a lot of publicity because you're Guinness World Record holder twice, right? And what's next? Now you have all of that. What did you think? What was going through your mind?
First off, you shouldn't do a business or an investment that you don't understand, right? That's why I didn't get into stocks early on. I got into real estate, for example. But when I first started my career, I got 2 weeks of the most amazing publicity you could possibly imagine with the Guinness Book of Records, and then nothing, crickets. And every time I contacted the media, they'd be like, "Well, you already did the cool thing. We covered the cool thing. Do another cool thing." And I'm like, I'm not going to break a Guinness record every time I want to get some press. So I came up with a way, I call it story hacking, where I can pitch stories that are relevant today. So there's current trends, current things happening right now. And we pitch that to the media, and we get media attention for our clients, for our authors and speakers and stuff. And this approach is a much more affordable and effective way to get PR than any other method. And it just takes a little bit of giving the media what they're looking for anyways, because we tell people that this is getting hits, this is getting exposure. So I used this myself. Everything that had to do with memory, I pitched, and I got on over 2,000 interviews, and made all those sales. And then I had a bunch of other people ask me, how did you get on the Today Show? How did you get in the New York Times? And I was like, well, let me do it for you. And that's what started Farrow Communications. It was very organic.
And how long have you been doing this?
Oh, it's been about 12 years now.
12 years.
PR for clients, yeah. So if they're interested, I do have for any of your listeners, I can do a discovery call for them, and it's kind of a coaching call, and let them know if PR really applies to them. But it's really satisfying when you take a skill that I learned and figured out, and then you apply it to someone who is, they got so much going for themselves, but the media is just not paying attention to them, right? And they know that their career is kind of capped unless they can get media attention, and then you can do that for them. It changes everything.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. That sounds wonderful. And we have many authors watching this video podcast. So
excellent. Well, I will offer a free discovery call to any one of them that is interested, and hopefully I get to talk to them soon.
Yeah. And we have a community in the legal tech and technology field as well.
Fantastic.
the skills can be used basically by anyone, right? And especially I'm thinking when we get older, we forget things even more, but I think it's so important for us to keep our minds sharp. Do you have any advice for people who are getting older, but they want their mind to stay young?
Absolutely. You want to, I teach you how in my course to be able to learn things throughout the day, even no matter how busy you are. You can train your brain as you go through the day, and at the end of the day, you sleep better than ever. One of the reasons why we're not sleeping as much is we are shooting ourselves up with adrenaline and cortisol because of stress, and we're not actually exercising our minds enough. So I could show people how to speed read through their emails, how to memorize their foreign language vocabulary, how to do that. And then when they apply it to their day-to-day life, the stress goes down because they're exercising their mind. Their mind isn't overreacting to everything. So yeah, the best advice also is that it has to be novel brain training. So if anybody wants to train their brain and they're using apps, there is no app that I've ever been aware of that actually has real improvement in cognitive function. And the reason for that is that an app alone is a game. It is something repetitive, and anytime you do something repetitive with your brain, it lowers your connections. Like if somebody's learning Sudoku, for example, right? Once you learn how to play Sudoku, the majority of the mental impact and improvement you've gotten is just in learning how. Once you get pretty good, even like so at it, the amount of brain plasticity just drops down to almost nothing. Because getting better at something does not challenge your brain. Learning it in the beginning really challenges your brain and challenges how to do it. So I would suggest doing things like learning a language, learning a musical instrument, something like that, doing a little bit study every single day in your profession. Even if you're stressed, even if you're working on a lot of things, it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, do something different, expose yourself to new things. That actually sounds exciting. Yeah, I always wanted to learn to play musical instrument someday.
It sounds absolutely crazy, but your brain will thank you for it.
Definitely wonderful. And I usually ask my podcast guests about kindness. What does kindness mean to you?
I saw that in your list there, and I think kindness is related to self-interest in a way. So if you're kind to somebody, most people think that means that you sacrifice yourself for them. You're losing something, they're gaining something, right? And it's not a good deal because you're doing it because you're kind. If it's a good deal for you, you're doing it because you're smart, right? So, if you are being kind to somebody, that is very often the belief by a lot of very cynical people. I see kindness as different. I see it as doing the right thing because it's the right thing, not because you're going to get something out of it, is kindness. And it has to do with seeing the other person as an extension of you. We're all in this world together. So seeing someone else as a part of you, you would be kind to them in the same way you'd be kind to your own hand. If you have a cut on your hand, you would treat it, right? You would, as long as it's not bugging you, you won't think about it very much, just like your friend. But then, if they've got something going on, you'll be kind to them. The problem is when everybody thinks that kindness has to do with self-sacrifice, and then they think they have to sacrifice. The problem is that there are those people who will take advantage of that, and they will take advantage of your kindness. So a lot of people see kindness as the same as naivete and opening yourself up to being taken advantage of. So the way to get around this is to see yourself as an extension of somebody else. In some cases, the best thing to do to help somebody is not to sacrifice, is to inspire, is to hold them accountable, is to yell at them and tell them to get going and get off their ass and do it, right? So the kind thing is not always the beneficial thing, but I think if you're being kind, you want to really help somebody. This would be, similar to the idea of helping somebody, like if somebody asks you to borrow money, right? And maybe you're just being taken advantage of if you're borrowing money, right? But if you can help facilitate them to get a haircut, or help them get that job that they need or something, or maybe they're really in a bind and they've got a credit card issue and they really do need money and everything, but you can help them get out of that and get on to financial freedom. That would be the right approach. So sometimes the lazy thing to do is to do the self-sacrificing thing, because like if you just give of yourself, I think that you get an ego boost, that you think you're a good person, but you're not actually thinking, will that actually benefit them? Is there actually a benefit here? And if you start thinking of everybody else as an extension of yourself, you start to be selective as to what charities you give to, for example. Not all charities, I think, are worth giving money to, I'll be honest with you. So when you actually want to do good in the world, then it's not about ego and showing off and just giving money for the sake of other people. I think real kindness is, I think measuring it is to actually try to make a positive impact, rather than just giving something because of your ego.
I love that, especially the part about motivation. Sometimes we think helping and being kind is doing something for somebody, but sometimes you just need to motivate them, and by doing so, they will accomplish that on their own, which is a better deal.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it goes back to, I mean, it's a common thing for guys and girls even. The old saying that, like, when a woman is complaining about something, sometimes she just wants to complain and she doesn't want it solved. But a kind and nice guy will want to solve that problem. That's not always the right thing to do in every situation. Sometimes people just need to hear you vent. Sometimes people just need to be listened to. So like, kindness is what's best for that other person, not
Exactly.
what's for your ego, or what's best for makes you feel superior or better, or something. That's
The
really.
same thing I feel like with children. We always want to help them and be kind and do it for them. But
Are you really being kind?
exactly, we need to encourage them to do it on their own, and that would benefit them more than us
Yep.
just running and trying to fix things for them or do something for them.
It's a great example. Yeah, absolutely.
This is great. I just had one more question. I wanted to go back to AI, because I feel like when we talk about AI, artificial intelligence is so much more superior than us humans. But I feel like we don't even know how amazing we are as humans and how incredible our minds, our brains are. What you have done, nobody else in the world could do, right? And I'm wondering how much more we can do. And we're kind of shifting all this attention from us humans to this artificial intelligence, but there's so much potential in us. Would you agree with me on that?
I think AI is like any tool. You have to use it as a tool. But if you want to improve yourself, so the question is whether you go at it with a perspective of, I want AI to do things for me, so I'm going to be lazy, or if AI is going to assist me in doing something or make me a better person. And I think that's really how you use the tool. So we use AI in our business all the time, and there's some things that it's not great for, and some things that it's fantastic for. But it's in how you use the tool, what your motivation is. It really comes back to motivation so many times, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
interesting.
Right. So what are your reasons for when you're trying to give to charity? Are you really trying to help them, or are you boosting your own ego? When you're trying to learn something, are you really learning something, or are you afraid of losing your memory? Right, like that sort of thing. So yeah, working out of fear like that doesn't get results. But if you actually want to learn something, your brain will wake up. When you actually want to help people, I think you're gonna help people a lot more. And when you're actually trying to teach a kid, rather than just get them to finish their homework, then they're going to learn something. So yeah, doing things the right thing is the best reward.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time. Yeah.
Thank you very much for having me. And I want to actually reiterate, anybody who's listening, go on to brainhackers.com and you can join the site and check out our immersive memory trainer, the brain trainer there, and also on Farrow Communications. If anybody runs a business and wants PR, you can get a free discovery call with myself and my team about options, exploring options there. And check out my book, Brain Hacker, on Amazon, please.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.